Hey guys, this will be part one of the Callicot lecture. Um, oh my gosh, the conceptual foundations of the land ethic. I'm specifically doing it after you wrote your discussion on it on purpose. That was intentional because it makes it more challenging when I don't give you the answer before you write it out. And the class is made to be challenging. So let's take a look at the notes, which I hope you've already looked through, but now we'll go through them together. So the first two parts here, anthropocentrism and intrinsic value, that's all from the introduction to this chapter, provided by Kaufman. So let me explain this a little bit more. Anthropocentrism, so anthropology is the study of human culture and so forth. So it just means, it means a human-centric view, right? So anthropocentrism understands everything on the planet aside from humans as having instrumental value. What instrumental means is precisely what we mean when we use the word instrument or tool. Musical instruments make music. They are used as a means to an end for music. If I talk about a writing instrument, like a pen or a pencil, those things are used as a means to an end. The end is to write things down, right? So an instrument or a tool are both used as means to an end. They help us to do something, and that something is what we are really wanting to get at, okay? So an instrument or a tool is just an aid, right? So anthropocentrism understands everything as having instrumental value, instrumental to human end goals. So animals and plants, the environment, then is has value only insofar as they help humans. So if humans weren't here, if we were wiped out and everything else remained, nothing would have any value. It would all exist and do whatever it does, but it wouldn't be good or bad, evil, right or wrong. It would just be, and it wouldn't matter if it was no longer. Nothing matters then. This idea is super egotistical. I mean, and arrogant. The suggestion is that things only matter if they help us, or if they don't, then we can just get rid of them if we feel like they don't help us. That attitude, it's very problematic, and in large part it stems from the Bible, that makes at least the suggestion in Genesis that everything was put here for man, and man is the center of everything, and the only important one, inherently, intrinsically, man has value. Man's value is not instrumental, but everything else here is to help man, and clearly that attitude can and has led us to some pretty serious trouble. We seem to think that means that we could just do whatever we want with the land and with animals, without regard for anything. Serious anthropocentrists will say, look, that specifically means that you shouldn't be doing whatever you want with the land and animals and destroying our natural resources and overpopulating the planet, which human beings have done, and using animals in the way that we do. It specifically means you shouldn't, because we need those things to live. If we pollute everything, I mean, what we have done to the oceans is, it's unconscionable. I mean, the destruction of the coral reefs is very serious, and it has a very serious effect on how long we're going to be able to survive as a species, because we live off of the ocean and the species within the ocean and all of the things that the ocean gives us. What is it called? The African black rhino just went extinct through human interference. There are absolutely species of plants and animals and such, insects and so on, that have become extinct not through anything that humans have done, even before humans were on the planet. But that's not what's going on now. I mean, we destroy their habitats, there's poaching, and we kill these species off long before it was natural for them to have died out or evolved into another species. And that's a problem. Callicot speaks to this, although I'm not going to go over this aspect of the text very much. But everybody in environmental ethics maintains, all of these thinkers maintain that one of the like three most important things that we need to concern ourselves with is what's called biodiversity. It doesn't matter if we have enough cows to feed everybody and enough spinach and strawberries. The ecosystems need diversity. They need many different kinds of bacteria, insects, plants, and animals to thrive. Just having cows and coyotes is not gonna do it. So when these species go extinct, because we rampantly use and use and use more and more and more, we are harming our own ability to survive. So a proper anthropocentrist, although it is a deeply arrogant notion that can lead to serious problems, a proper anthropocentrist will say, look, we have to treat the land with respect because we have to live off of it. So we need to engage in biodiversity. We need to make sure that we don't use up our natural resources. We need to stop making cars that create so much pollution. We need to stop overpopulating. We need to stop the factory farming. We need to find alternative sources of energy, or we're going to die. The planet is not infinite. Resources are not infinite. And we keep multiplying. Unless we want to live on beetles, because I think on the planet right now, they're just in numbers, like there are 6 billion human beings or so. There are more beetles than that. Unless we want to just all eat beetles all the time and live off of that, although of course we kill off all the plants and things, the beetles aren't going to survive. Because you see how everything in an ecosystem is connected and affects everything else, right? That's the point of one of the points of anthropocentrism. We are connected to the land. Its existence and its thriving are required for our ability to thrive. If we screw it up, well, we're not going to survive very long. And even if we do survive, but people are fighting over the resources, which we already do, so we're surviving just to, like, live in a state of nature? Why is that good? This is ridiculous. This is precisely what Hobbes said. If we want to do more than survive, if we want to thrive, we need to behave with respect. Not just for ourselves, not just for our families, but for everything that we have to live with. It doesn't work very well to just be at war. And that is part of the answer to the discussion question. Now, but let's go back here first. So, as I say, so nature has value under anthropocentrism. Nature has value only insofar as it provides us the resources for life. So, were we not here, it wouldn't have any value. Okay? Just like, look, it's tough to, I think, and most people don't do this. More people are interested in maintaining inherent ethical value in things, even if human beings aren't here to recognize that value. But it's pretty tough to talk about other forms of value like the beautiful. The two big value theories in philosophy are aesthetics, art, philosophy of the beautiful, of beauty, and ethics. So, without a perceiver that can perceive beauty or create beauty, I guess, whatever you want to say, it's tough to put forth the argument in any logical way that the sunset is beautiful. I mean, where is the beauty? Like, point to it. Is it like the lower left-hand corner? Like, what? That's tough. Animals don't appear to perceive beauty. Babies don't perceive beauty. It looks like only adultish human beings in full possession of their faculties have the opportunity to perceive the beautiful. But very few thinkers maintain that nature or anything else is beautiful without a human being to perceive that beauty. And that is the notion in anthropocentrism, except that they apply that to ethics. There is no moral component in anything on the planet unless human beings exist to care and to ascribe meaning, to feel that different things matter. So, anyway, that's that idea. So, as I say then, what follows? Harming nature is wrong because doing so indirectly harms humans. So, if humans weren't here, and there was a tornado or something, and we always call that, oh, a tragedy, these people lost their lives and their homes, and all those trees were uprooted and destroyed, and look, it's only a tragedy because human beings see it that way. This is Mother Nature. That's what she does. She just destroys things wantonly. She does not care. And she has to, because life and death and recycling and rebirth are all a part of nature. And things have to die to allow for new life. And that's just the way it goes. So we think there's a big old problem with things because we're totally egotistical and we only worry about how they affect us. So if there's, if gas prices go up, we get all upset that we have to spend money, and we forget to consider anything about fossil fuels and what we might be doing to the planet and how much is left and how long it takes for that stuff, for the planet to create that stuff, and that maybe we shouldn't be buying these huge gas-guzzling cars, but, well, Americans, they gotta have the biggest and the best, right? More and more and more stuff. Clearly makes us really happy, given that we have the highest rate on the planet of hydrocodone usage. We use an unprecedented amount of antidepressants in this country, anxiety medication. It looks like all this stuff is really creating happiness for us, huh? But we gotta have more, no matter who it hurts. So that's one idea. The second then is the opposite, intrinsic value, non-instrumental value. Things have value in and of themselves, whether or not human beings are here, whether or not we think that they have value. If we say, no, cows are here for us to eat, and look, we could say whatever we want, it doesn't make it true. You could say all day the earth is flat, doesn't make it true. So the notion of intrinsic value is that things, regardless of what human beings perceive or think, and, we're notoriously selfish for being so intelligent, we're not terribly wise. And we don't learn very quickly from our mistakes. Or we wouldn't be treating the environment as we do. But regardless of what we say and what we think, things are the way they are. And if we don't figure out how they are in enough time, well, we've already threatened our survival pretty seriously. So, look, there is a way that the ecosystem works, and we don't live sustainably with it. We, as just standard human beings, and there are just so many of us on the planet now, that we just have such a huge impact so quickly that there's just not enough time for the earth to reverse those damages before we make more. And the earth is governed by, among other things, natural laws. It doesn't matter what we think or like or care about or how we want things to be. Gravity is whatever it is, and it's not up to me that things live and die and how nutrients go back into the soil and whatever. And it's not up to me that this bacteria lives on this animal or in my eyebrows or in my stomach, because we all have that stuff living in us naturally. And look, that's not up to me, and I can fight against it all I want or not care about it and put crap into my body all day long and think like whatever, doesn't matter to me. Yeah, well, eventually it catches up to you because there's a real way that things operate on the planet. Look, nature is bigger than we are. Nature is stronger than we are, and she's gonna do us in one of these days. This stuff will catch up to us, and that's all there is to it, because there is a way. There's a real way that things work, no matter what human beings have to say. Our goal is to find out how they work and to work with them, not try to dominate them, because it's never going to work. Good luck trying to dominate nature. It's not going to happen. Like, you're not going to stop the tornado. Good luck. You'll die in the process, so whatever. But again, we're not very wise creatures for how intelligent we are. So, as far as Callicot is concerned, we better wise up pretty quickly here. And in fact, we seem to be doing so. That's the big premise here. It takes us far too long to gain the wisdom that we need, but it is happening, and it's natural that it happens. So people who fight against this, who continue to maintain that the land should be enslaved and used by us however we see fit, that is an attitude that naturally will die out, and it has been. Once we've started to realize that things operate, the land, the planet, physical laws, the ecosystems, whatever, operate according to their own rules, and we don't set them. And when we try to just dominate them, it doesn't seem to work. We're really doing some serious damage. So, and it's threatening our own survival. So, we started to wise up. It's taking a pretty long time. And some countries are wiser than others, I guess. But, there's always progress to be made. So now the first thing, so if you go down in the notes to starting on Callicot, as I say, his project, his purpose in writing this is to re-examine and argue in favor of Aldo Leopold's The Land Ethic. So this other guy, Leopold, wrote this piece, The Land Ethic. So the first section of this piece is pretty much all Callicot saying, look, everybody completely, all these environmental philosophers and so on, just completely disregarded Leopold's piece, his essay called The Land Ethic, and for, numerous reasons or whatever, but I'm gonna sort of re-examine it, rewrite the big ideas, and in a way that I think will be more palatable and accessible, because I think that so I'm Callicot right now. Callicot, think that what Leopold was trying to do is fantastic, and he's right on, but he just didn't have the best way of putting it forward to get his audience to see what he was really trying to do or whatever. So I'm going to sort of redo it, and then I hope that people will start to pay attention, because it's serious business, considering what we do to the land and animals. It's pretty serious business. So let's see. Okay, so what did I put here? So first, let me point out this difference then of moral consciousness versus moral practice, and he makes this distinction the very bottom of 274, left-hand column, last paragraph. The history of moral practice, however, is not identical with the history of moral consciousness. So, let's see. 3 lines. In light of this distinction, it's clear that today, despite rising rates of violent crime in the United States, institutional abuses of human rights in Iran, Chile, Ethiopia, etc., 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 and despite persistent organized social injustices and oppression in still others, moral consciousness, so that's all moral practice. What we actually do in the world, oh my God, it is clear as day that human beings are cruel and barbarous. And we are cruel to other human beings. We also torture the living hell out of animals. Or our shampoo. And it doesn't need to happen at all. We do it willingly because it's cheaper than using the alternative methods that many companies have embraced, because it doesn't matter that it's cheaper. It's despicable. It's unconscionable what we do to these animals. Factory farm. Look, I encourage you to go to Google Images and just type in factory farming or factory farms. And look at the pictures. Even if you, for whatever reason, don't have the ability to feel compassion for other living creatures that feel pain, you might want to ask yourself why you don't have that ability, but whatever. Look, if you look at those pictures, I can't believe anybody is willing to put that in their body. I am not going to eat those cows, those chickens, those pigs. They are diseased. I would not feed that milk to my baby. There is no way in hell that stuff is going in my body. Look, even if I didn't care about treating animals with kindness, I care about what I put in my body. I'm not putting that in my body. Look at the pictures. I encourage you to know what you're putting in your body. And I encourage you to realize that there are alternatives. You can get locally raised cattle, and they don't use all of these like horrific they boil cows alive to loosen the hide before they're slaughtered to make it easier. What? Why are we doing this? Why is this okay? Why? Because animals are just there for us to do with as we please? I guess ecologists and nature don't agree with you on that one. Because we've been doing with them as we please, and it is biting us in the butt. You're going to want to rethink that position if that's what you maintain. By the way, keep in mind that you're getting that position from a nomadic people, the Hebrews, who lived 5,000 years ago. And somehow that's their perception of things is like directly relevant to what we live in now. Do you know what the population of the planet was 5,000 years ago? Do you know what technology was like? Oh, well, they didn't have any. Do you know what their culture was like? Do you know anything about the ancient Hebrews? Do you know anything about their history? Yeah. Study the Jews right now, and you're not going to know Hebrew culture. It's absolutely irrational to maintain a position that people maintained 5,000 years ago, an entirely different ecosystem, an entirely different culture, an entirely different religion. Well, and it hasn't worked. We now have the experience and the empirical data to illustrate to us that that attitude, that everything is made for us to do it as we please, doesn't work. By the way, if you want to maintain that attitude for a religious reason, I implore you to take a look at Pope John Paul II's speech on the World Day of Peace in 1990. 23 years ago, Pope John Paul II, the Pope. The Catholic Church is not known for its concern for the environment. That's not one of their legacies. 23 years ago, the head of the Catholic Church wrote a whole speech for the world to hear that said, we need to take care of the environment now. He's the one, by the way, who made St. Francis of Assisi, and St. Francis is the saint that our new pope has taken, right? This is Pope Francis now. He took St. Francis' name. Pope John Paul is the one who made St. Francis the patron saint of ecology and animals, right? Pope John Paul spends pages and pages talking about how we are destroying the environment and how that is not what the Bible meant. What it meant in Genesis is that human beings are to be stewards of the environment and to use it with two things: wisdom and respect. Take a gander. You can just read it online. Look, if you maintain this position for religious reasons, hate to be the one to tell you, you need to do some more thinking and reading up on your religion. Also, it would be a good idea to learn a little bit about ecology and what's actually going on in the world right now. So, yeah. Take heed. So moral practice is not the same thing as moral consciousness. Moral practice, we do terrible things, and we are still doing them, and we are awful to the land and to animals and to other humans. We are awful. It's a mess. It's a terrible mess. Moral consciousness, on the other hand, is just how much of a mess we think it is. So there was a point at which doing these things, it was just as terrible for us to do, to enslave other human beings or to have institutionalized rape of women, but we didn't think that it was. So this is like centuries ago and stuff like that, right? We did the same like terrible, horrible things that we do today to human beings, land, animals. But we didn't think it was bad. We thought it was A-okay to completely and entirely oppress and enslave women, enslave the Africans who were brought over to this country. We thought that was fine. Now we still do those things, but something in us is changing, and it's our consciousness, it's our understanding or our perception of those things that we do. We're starting to really think, this is messed up. We need to stop this. Like, it's not right that we're doing this. And it wasn't right that we did it before. But people 4 centuries ago didn't have as evolved of a moral consciousness. So on the top then of the right-hand column on page 274, let's see, well, he says one line in, so moral consciousness is expanding more rapidly now than ever before, in spite of all of these, the horrible things that we do in practice. Civil rights, human rights, women's liberation, children's liberation, animal liberation, all indicate as expressions of newly emergent moral ideals that ethical consciousness has, if anything, recently accelerated. So this is the big point. That's why he brings up this image from Leopold's original essay about the Greeks and how they, I mean, slavery was just natural. Like, that was standard. Most, in the Roman Empire, I mean, half the people, if not more, half the people were slaves. Doctors, I mean, they actually, funnily enough, in the Roman Empire, they sent slaves to school, trade schools and philosophical schools and things. Like, so many of the doctors, lawyers, merchants, smithies, whatever it was, they were all slaves, and they'd been sent to school, which is amazing, and super interesting, but regardless, it was fine. It was just normal that most people were slaves. And I mean, at any time, your master could just kill you, or, I mean, if you're a woman, of course, rape you, do whatever you want. That was just normal, and nobody thought much of it. Now we think, even though because we have more people on the planet right now, the just amount, like the number of human beings in slavery today is greater than ever before. Not by percentage, just sheer numbers. There are more, because of the sex slavery, primarily. So women and children, male and female children, by the way, who are sold into sex slavery in this country. Don't get it into your heads that we don't have a hand in this. There's, I think it's something like 50,000 sex slaves and indentured servants, which is totally illegal, are brought into this country every year. So that's messed up. But that's the point. Make this like several centuries back, and I wouldn't have responded to that with, that's messed up. I would have just been like, yeah, I mean, slavery, it's normal. Everybody does that. Of course, you're supposed to. I mean, that's part of the thing. You just enslave people, right? Why are we even having this conversation? We don't think that now. We think that's a serious problem, okay? That is the difference between moral practice and moral consciousness. Our consciousness changes even though our practice does not change quite as rapidly. Okay, so he says, all right, well, here's the big, actually, I'm going to stop the video here and then I'll restart it.